All right. Well, one, two, three, one. Welcome everybody to Mom and Dad Talks, where our favorite two people are Mom and Dad, and we have a special guest that we always enjoy, Aunt Guelda. Aunt Guelda. Yeah. I always love Aunt Guelda. Always a pleasure seeing my auntie come.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Mom and Dad and Aunt Guelda, we have a bunch of tragedies, unfortunately, and our hearts go out to the families who lost loved ones. And it just rang into my mind about number one, the OceanGate, where we're going to discuss, and also two about the migrants who also overloaded the boat, whatever, and some were ordered below deck, and dozens of them died. Which two tragedies this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one got more notoriety than the other, even though more were killed, and you know. It just puts things in an interesting perspective.
Right.
And so, with saying all of that and stuff, I guess we'll start off with, what are your feelings on what happened with OceanGate, with the Titan sub?
To me, I feel that it was a real tragedy, and that these were 19 people all lost their lives.
No, it was the five people on the Titan sub. Yeah,
lost their lives just for a look at a sunken ship.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a thrill seeker, I guess, or I don't know, doing something that no one else has done. But that's a chance people take. And unfortunately, when you take that chances, there's always a chance that you will lose your life. Because as I understand, the submarine imploded. It just squashed up like a tin can, which to me meant that it was not a safe dive.
Yeah.
Even though they've done it before millions of times, but it's just a tragedy.
I was reading on the article there when they were talking about this sub, even though they had titanium around it and stuff in the hull.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have other measures. Even though they mentioned they had certain measures, automatic stuff to pop up and all this just to make you feel safe. I know James Cameron, the movie director, and also Ocean, he's big into to do ocean dives and stuff. Who also, looked at the Titanic. When they were talking about this particular sub, he felt it was unsafe the way they were talking about it. And when I saw the report on it, I was just like, wow, I guess this guy thought he outsmarted everybody else in creating this, even though it's worked several times. It was bolted where if something went wrong, you're stuck in a tin can.
Right. You're locked in. There's no way of escape.
Yeah, and I can get claustrophobic easily. That's a panic attack, and that's just a horrible situation and stuff. So with that, Mom and Aunt Guelda, what do you guys think about the situation with that OceanGate there?
I don't really know that much about it, but just off the top of my head, it was kind of senseless to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Titanic, even down at the bottom of the ocean, I mean, it's been there for years and years and years, and I think it'll just remain there.
Mm-hmm.
You need to resurrect it or whatever they're trying to do with it.
I feel that sometimes we don't need to be so curious as to how things look or what they're all about because of the lack of safety, of the danger that it may incorporate when we want to explore something that no one has ever, not too many people have done. And my heart goes out to the family of these people that lost their life, these 5 families. I cannot comprehend the feeling that they had because of something that these 5 people wanted to do that didn't have to do.
Mm-hmm.
not forced to do it,
Mhm.
but they didn't really, not realizing that if something did happen, what a void would be in the family of the life of the family members that are alive. And that's my take on it. I sometimes we just have to say, you know what, the curiosity that I have about it is just, I'm just going to be curious. I'm not going to try to explore to see, to prove what is there or what isn't there. And I believe that that's the reason why that happened to these individuals. They were so curious. They wanted to see what's down there, and no matter what the cost, they wanted to explore it. And when they did, and when they explored it, their lives were lost.
It's such a tragedy. And it was two tragedies. There was the 700 plus migrants reportedly drowned in the Mediterranean Sea.
Hmm.
About the same time that this also happened, and it got little coverage on it.
Right.
President Obama actually was bringing out that, and these particular people were trying to find a better life, but got little attention from the news media, right? These guys were trying to make a better life for themselves. And some reports I was reading, $8,000 they would spend to try to get it. And this was a dilapidated trawler that they were trying to cross. I mean, the desperation for getting a better life and a better job, no one seems to be addressing that there's people out there desperate to try to make them have a better life. And they died trying to get a better life. Where the other side of it, and we're not making this, and they're both tragedies, folks, that one was basically a tourist attraction, and an unfortunate thing happened, and they didn't get equal attention. In my mind, they should have got equal attention in the thought about it and it just shows the disparities of what happens when you're rich and you're poor in the world.
And could this be the reason why they did not get as much publicity as those 700 and some people, ever lost, they perished? It could be that this country is racially divided,
Mm-hmm.
and we are all not treated equally with exposure of what happens to us. It's like, oh, well, these immigrants, that happened to them, it just happened. And it's ignored.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate that the leaders of this country don't say, look, we need to be fair about everybody who is of a different color. We all we need to be treated as one color.
Right. And it's sad, and a great point, think about the news media made one more newsworthy than the other one, and they were both tragedies.
Right.
700 people reportedly drowned in the Mediterranean Sea. 5 people, they're all tragedies, but the coverage is not the same.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right. And
there's a racial divide
mm-hmm.
when it comes to reporting incidents like that happened this week. It's really a sad situation.
And one common denominator both of them had was a large amount of money.
Yeah. Money
will corrupt you, and people will take chances just because of money. $250,000 to go down to look at a sunken boat in the ocean 2.5 miles down. That's a big thrill kicker. And people will pay a large amount of money for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cruises, nothing wrong with cruises, but when COVID came and these people were paying all this money to go on a cruise, mm-hmm. were stuck out of port and they were dying.
Yeah.
Cruise ships. And they couldn't bring the bodies off the ships.
Mm.
That's horrible. And the people that were successful,
mm-hmm.
In not getting the COVID, they had to stay there in a disease-ridden ship.
Mm.
And they said the conditions got really rank and horrible over time.
Really rank because toilets weren't working, and it was horrible.
And like I said, both people paid a large sum of money for one for better life, one for thrill seeking, and it just goes to show that, folk, what's the cost of your life?
What's your life
worth? What's your life worth?
even if you're trying to get a thrill or you're trying to get a better life, is it really worth the risk for it? And for some, that may be the reward. Like I said, unfortunately, with both parties, they died. One paid $250,000. One paid $8,000, but still, that's a large sum of money for it, and to get a certain kind of outcome. So my heart goes out, to the families and to everyone out there. They're all tragedies, and it just puts perspective. Someone today, hug someone, because like I said, before we leave everyone, I think one of the saddest things that I saw was a father and a son.
Yes.
Father trying to give his son a nice treat, and you're going to see your son die in your arms. That had to be the worst. I mean, I couldn't imagine a father knowing that you killed your child, something you decided to do and took a risk on that you thought was safe.
Life was taken along with yours.
Yeah.
Right. And not saying the other people weren't, the CEO of the company and another billionaire passed, but just imagine that, your child dying at your own decision. That I think that's something to think about, folks. So hug your children today, hug your mom and dad, and hug your aunt, and enjoy the life that you do have with them, because we never know when it's going to be our last. And like I said, we try to help people to think about stuff before you do them and look at it, and really, really look at the price. And I know sometimes just taking a chance is a lot of fun in itself and getting away with it, but if you may not get away with it that time.
And I think the Bible tells us that we should be good stewards of our money.
Yeah.
Our money, money. A lot of people become very selfish with their money.
Yeah.
And that's tragic. That's tragic, because when you really think of $250,000, just think how many people that could have eaten in a homeless center with that much money.
Look how that money, 250,000, could have helped that how many
700 migrants
people. Yeah, even for them to do whatever needed to be done,
get productive lives for their family and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that in itself could make a difference just by making them productive in something, and then making that happen. So, this puts a lot of perspective on stuff. And like I said, folks, this one's a very somber. Hearts go out to the families, the migrants, and the people who, the five people who passed away, their families too. So a lot of suffering today. And like I said, folks, till next time, we'll see you on Mom and Dad Talks. Okay?
Yeah.